We're not trying to have like a 6-week program for a kid to move and then we don't see them for another year.
Right.
Movement should be critical forever. If it works, we add it tomorrow. If there was research that you told me about on this podcast and we went and verified it, we would change the curriculum tomorrow. It's whatever is best for the kid. That's what we do.
Hello and welcome to another episode of the Breaking Muscle podcast, where we bring you the stories of people who see the health and fitness problems facing America and decide to do something about it. I am Pete Hitzeman, the managing editor at breakingmuscle.com and your host for today's show. It's become reflexive to collectively shake our heads and mutter kids these days. That trope used to refer to the somewhat innocuous change in culture from one generation to the next, but today it carries a much graver significance. Kids these days are suffering from exponential rises in everything from diabetes to depression, and it all stems from a culture that has abandoned physicality in favor of comfort and convenience. Matt and Megin Sharp wanted something better for their first daughter, but when they went looking for a place to help develop her physical ability, they weren't satisfied with their options. Undaunted, they decided to create it for themselves. The result is KidStrong, their groundbreaking facility in Lexington, Kentucky, where they're working tirelessly to create a generation of capable, confident, and healthy kids. Their staff of physical and occupational therapists, teachers, physical educators, and exercise physiologists has created an innovative curriculum designed to intentionally develop kids in the exact areas society has chosen to ignore. The Sharps sat down with me to discuss this incredible program, where they hope to nurture kids who want to move forever, not just while they're in school. We discussed the tragedy of throwing kids with no physical literacy straight into sports, the surge in kids needing occupational and even speech therapy simply because they don't move enough, and the cultural impact of helping kids and parents work out together as a family. Matt and Megin think that movement is the best teacher of character and positive self-talk, and after you hear what they're doing, I think you'll agree. If you like what you hear on the show this week, be sure to help us get the word out. Share this episode with your Facebook friends and drop us a rating or review on iTunes, Stitcher, or Google Play. And if you have any feedback or ideas to pass along, be sure to reach out to editorial@breakingmuscle.com. Joining us today on the Breaking Muscle podcast are Matt and Megin Sharp, a rare 3-person episode of the Breaking Muscle podcast. The Sharps are the co-owners of a place called KidStrong in Lexington, Kentucky, and it does just what the name says. They turn kids into strong kids, which doesn't seem like, at first glance, a thing that needs done until you look at the state, the physical and mental state of kids in the United States today. Guys, thank you so much for sitting down with me this morning.
Thanks
for having us.
I'm excited to be here.
So who are the Sharps? I can give you the academic answer off of your website, but who are you guys and why are you playing with kids all day?
The Sharps are the most awesome people in the world.
Why don't you go first?
You know, we're just your typical mom and dad who decided that there needed to be a change, you know, with our kids these days. And once our daughter got to be 15 months old and we were looking for something for her to do, we couldn't find what we were wanting for her. So with my background, I was a PE teacher for 7 years, and his background of being an entrepreneur, we just said, let's build our own.
Yeah, so it kind of started, so I have a background in running fitness gyms. I own some CrossFits and some boot camp gyms, and have been part of a few startups. So essentially, you know, the way our minds work is if we'll go somewhere and we'll try to find something for our kid, and if something doesn't exist that meets like what we're looking for or our standards or kind of what we want, then we will basically try to create that. So when she was about 15 months old, we took her to some places, and, you know, I played college sports and Megan's background, and not knocking on any of these places, but there just wasn't, I don't think there's a lot of older concepts out there. And I think what we're starting to see and kind of what we feel is there's like there's this part of us that wants to kind of take back childhood and bring it back and make it awesome again and get kids moving again. And we didn't see a lot of that. And there's just also a lack of the language of strength with kids and the character development that comes along with that. So all of those things kind of added up to, I think we think we can do something better.
And it wasn't just strength physically, it was strength mentally and socially. We wanted, you know, our little girl to have physical strength, but we wanted her to grow up with the confidence and independent just to get through life.
Yeah, strength and independence, and we hire a lot. I mean, we hire and we interact with a lot of kids. Strength and independence in children is something that's in very short supply now. And then when you look at a lot of the programs for kids, they're, like I said, they're older concepts. There's definitely not a lot of dads that are interested in going to these places. So another reason that we're kind of unique is we really focus on parents that think and feel about childhood like we do. Mm-hmm. And for us, we want the experience when a parent comes into KidStrong, we want that to be an awesome experience for the parents. And we want parents that want kids to be pushed and want kids to be stronger, and they don't want it to be fluffy and everything's pink and purple and pastel colors. Like they want the cool stuff for the kids, and they want to be part of that. So we designed it with that in mind. We basically built it for ourselves, and then other parents that think like we do have been coming on.
So let's outline the problem a little bit more, because we keep using kind of the trope, which is kids these days, and then the alternate to that is, well, when I was a kid, right? So when I was a kid, my mom's answer was go outside and play, mostly because she wanted to be left alone because I was the third child. And
that doesn't exist anymore.
It doesn't exist, and it doesn't exist because of a whole bunch of societal and cultural issues that are probably a subject for a whole other podcast.
Yeah.
But there aren't the opportunities now for kids to go outside and climb trees and do things, the opportunities that we had just a short time ago. I feel like it was a short time ago when we were kids. So the result is the unhealthiest generation of kids in maybe the history of mankind, certainly in American history. So what are the things that you guys are seeing in kids that you then have to try to address and correct?
You started to see it with PE classes.
Oh yeah, I saw it like 7 years ago when I taught kindergarten. But if we're going off of the physical side, to reach a little bit deeper, like the rate of childhood depression has gone up tremendously. Obesity, childhood obesity. So like
kids just don't, like it really boils down to kids don't move anymore.
Which means their brains aren't.
Yeah, and now you're seeing all this, and one of the reasons why we're super passionate about what we're doing, and we see it in the kids that are in the program. If kids don't move, like literally their brains don't develop correctly. And we're not just talking about like mental tasks here. You know, we're talking about social, like cognitive abilities. Like the kids don't know how to interact with other kids. They don't know how to fail and get back up. So there's something that we always say, and we make sure it's super clear for everybody that coaches with us or works with us. The most important thing that we believe we can do for kids is the person we help them become. Not a specific skill that we teach them, but basically like if you can change a kid's mindset on the world and the way they view problems, like in the way they view each other and working on a team, and the way they view authority and being coached, if you can change that mindset, that's the most important thing that can happen for a kid. And we do that a lot through physical challenges. It literally rewires a child's brain. Yeah. You know, because we'll see kids that will come in, and it's crazy, but we'll see a kid come into the program that might be 7 or 8 that has never ran as fast as they can. And I know that sounds crazy, but like they've never ran full speed.
Yeah.
Because they've grown up and they watch a lot of TV, they hang out inside, they don't go outside. Kids don't know how to ride bikes anymore. They don't know how to ride a skateboard. Like any of these things happen. So when you see a kid that's 7 and they don't know how to run correctly, Like that child will never enjoy sports.
Mm-hmm.
And what we see is parents will take a child that has never moved, they'll put them in a sport. The child fails miserably. Socially, it's very awkward for them. Now they hate sports, they hate movement, and they go back to the video games.
And they're confident.
And their confidence is shot.
Yeah. I mean, we have, in today's, today's kids, there we go again. We'll find that kids cannot look you in the eye.
Like simple things.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's just those little things that we're trying to help, like, teach them to look someone in the eye and have a conversation with them, be confident, shake their hand. And then, kids will come into our program and literally 2 months later, they will be completely different kids. Mm-hmm. And their parents will tell us, they'll give us examples of things outside of class that they see.
I think if you look at like the genesis for like the program and the genesis for like the framework, it really comes from us looking at everything that is offered for kids and pulling the key components, like the best things out of each part of those programs and putting it into one program. So for example, martial arts teaches some of the best focus and character development of anything that kids will be involved in. But a lot of kids will never take martial arts. Mm-hmm. So they're never exposed to the character development, the life skill development that comes from martial arts. So we have a character development program that is based on a lot of the same stuff that martial arts does. Mm-hmm. Another thing is sports are great, but a lot of kids are never going to play sports, or they're not going to play sports forever. So we try to pull the best things out of the sports and basically just have the kids enjoy movement, because we want them to move forever, not just when they're playing their sport, and everything is so specialized now. And even for our daughter, she's 3, and kids, they're starting to like specialize kids at like 3 and 4. And, I was a multi-sport athlete. You were a multi-sport athlete. We want to get back to those days where kids are moving in various ways. They're jumping, throwing, catching, running differently. And we tried to pull that from sport and pull that into what we do. And then the last thing is we have a mental / like academic component to the program. There is a lot of research that has come out that kids learn at an increased rate if they're moving. Mm-hmm. Like the human is not meant to sit for 8 hours and do rope memorization and then walk around the gym for 30 minutes once a week. Right. So we incorporate an academic component into what we do. So for example, in a class, the kids might race to one end, grab a letter, race back, and then they have to tell you what letter that is. Mm-hmm. So we just want to mix all of those things together because I think we really believe that that's the way you're supposed to train. You're supposed to mix these things together. We don't have to like separate out, all right, let's sit in a class and learn to read, and then let's go outside and let's walk a little bit, and then let's go do this other thing. Like the brain actually performs better if those things are mixed together.
Yeah, that's one of the things that I keep coming back to. The more and more I get into the health and fitness space, and I consider myself a perpetual novice because I'm surrounded by a whole bunch of people who are...
the more you know, the more you realize you don't.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
But what one of the truths I keep coming back to is that everything is everything, right? So, the body and the mind are not separate.
No.
Cartesian theory was a stupid idea. And we can't educate the mind without educating the body. And we can't expect the body to do things that we've never given it the foundation to do. Mm-hmm. Shane Trotter is one of our youth development specialist writers, and he's very fond of saying that asking a kid to go play football when they have no background in physical literacy is like asking them to do calculus when you never taught them basic math. So, I want kids to play sports. I think adults should play sports too. But if they don't know how to run, like you're saying, because they've been
they will hate it.
They're going to hate it because it's going to hurt. It's going to feel bad to play sports. So they're never going to do it. And I look at kids' footwear a lot, because I've learned to be very selective with the things I put on my feet because they impact everything that I do. Like even my shoes that I wear to the office have to be like not terrible for my feet or else I don't like them. But we put kids a lot of times in these clunky, huge, stiff rubber shoes and put them in them all day, and then they have like over time.
So
these kids
it's
have
funny you say that.
mechanics.
Yeah, that's really funny you say that, because like one of our kind of larger goals, like our vision for the company and the community, is to work with a shoe company to develop a shoe for athleticism for kids of all ages, not just a shoe that looks good.
Right.
Yeah. And I think one of the, like, if you really boiled a lot of this stuff down, there, like, you could look at, there was an experience that our daughter had at we took her to a pumpkin patch. And if you can make kids, like, our goal is really to make kids love life. And I'll kind of back into that. So we took our daughter to a pumpkin patch. Here, it was near where we live here. And in the pumpkin patch, it's all outdoors. There's all these physical activities. There's zip lines. There's these things to jump on. There's hay bales. And literally our daughter hit the ground running. And this was when she was 3. She hit the ground running and went 100 miles an hour for probably 2 hours. And she bounced from one thing to the next. She would pass kids that were 6, 7 years old that were scared to do something. She would walk around them and do the zip line. She would walk around them and climb the tires. And as parents, when you see her experience life that way, that's why we do it. Because those kids are not, they did not enjoy those 2 hours as much because they weren't physically literate. They were shy. They were anxious. You know, they were antisocial. So they literally missed out on like 2 hours of joy because they don't have that kind of thing inside of them. So like, if you really boil it all down, that's what we want. Cause like, if she grows up and if any of these kids grow up to be athletes, amazing. That's great.
They're going to
like, we really just, sure. But we really just want them to be good at life.
Yes. And I have to go back to, you know, teaching PE too. She'll probably be one of those kids that enjoys PE because she'll be confident and she'll have, you know, done all these things. I know when I taught kindergarten and first grade, I had kids come in who they couldn't run. They couldn't catch a ball. They couldn't throw a ball because they've never been taught how. And they had zero confidence. They got embarrassed because their peers, you know, could do those things. And I just think we need to give our kids the skills to enjoy life.
We're so protective of that hour we have with them. Like, we feel like that is so important. And I don't know if you've been to the website, but everybody on our staff is amazing. So like, you could go to a KidStrong class and your teacher would be a pediatric OT and the assistant could be a PhD in exercise physiology. Like, you just don't find that anywhere else. And the way that we're able to attract like that caliber of coach is because their kids are in the program and they believe in it. And like I said, I think we're just part of a group of parents that wants this generation to have a different path than the generation before. And I think we've seen the pitfalls of kids that aren't pushed and they get everything they want and life is easy, and then they go out into the real world and they crash and burn. I think we're just part of a generation of parents now that want to like make the kids strong again. And that's really where a lot of this came from.
Yeah, we have a member who drives 45 minutes one way to take class. So for an hour and a half, they're on the road, and she says that she will build her schedule around her son's KidStrong class.
She's a pediatric OT.
Yes, and she's an OT. That's how much she believes in it. That's how much. I mean, she's been doing this for over a year, traveling 45 minutes one way for her son to attend class. You know, when I've talked to her, and she'll tell me we build the rest of our day around his class because they want him to attend. They've seen so many positive things from it. She says we will never quit coming.
It's just part of that. Again, it's part of that. Like, there's this generation of parents that like want something different now. And for us, when you look at a lot of the old concepts and things that you put kids in, they just don't address the things that we feel like are important for our kids. Like our daughter, we make her do pull-ups before she goes to bed. She's 3. Like, that's weird That's strange.
I mean, I don't think it is.
Sure, we have a rock wall in our dining room.
Yeah.
Right. So like those things are weird, but there are a group of parents that do not think that's weird.
Mm-hmm.
And those are the parents that are the best fit for what we do. And even when I was listening to your podcast with John from Change the Game, like everything he was saying, like those things are in line with like why we want the kids between 1 and 6, so that when they enter the athletic and sporting arena, they know how to, like, they're physically literate. They love the game. Our goal would be for all of our kids to be like captains of the teams, not because they're the most athletic, but because mentally and they have really, really strong character, So those are the things, and they're physically literate. So hopefully they'll be good at the sport, but we really want like to own the captain of the team. Like we want our kids to be in that slot for more than just the physical aspect. And if that podcast was awesome, hearing him talk about it.
Well, one of Matt's things he'll say is, nobody wants an athletic jerk, right?
Right.
So even if you're super athletic, like you have zero character, I mean, that's not what we want in our kids.
Yeah. That's another reason why we're so critical on who teaches the kids.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So.
How much parent education do you have to do? I mean, obviously somebody who comes to you with a kid and says, I want you to make my kid into your KidStrong concept,
mm-hmm.
They're going to have a certain amount of buy-in just walking in the door. They saw your website, they got a recommendation from a friend or something like that. But like, there are going to be some things that you're going to be doing with their kids that are going to surprise them, like sending them down a zip line or, having them move things that are heavy, flipping tires. Yeah. Like how many times do you have to sit the parent down and kind of talk them off the ledge? Like, it's okay. This is normal.
0.
So
really?
I think, I
never have.
Yeah. So my background is in some online businesses and even the CrossFit and the boot camp gyms. If you can really identify like the target persona, the best fit for you. Mm-hmm. And if you can, what we try to do, and if you go to the website's really built for the right parents to say, oh my gosh, I have to be there tonight. And for the wrong parents to be like, I don't want my kid ever flipping a tire. That's dangerous. Zip lines are crazy. Like we should weed out a lot of those people, like on the initial, like when they have their first impression of us, we really want like this hell yes or no. So that when they get there, like it's an amazing experience.
It's funny when we're talking about parents. I'm on the scene a lot, and I'm in the classes and I'm coaching and talking to the parents. And one of the things that the parents will say is, "Can we have a KidStrong for adults?"
Yeah.
So, and to me, that's I mean. I'm like, yeah, we can have a KidStrong for adults. That's how much they love it. They love everything we do. They're, they love it so much.
If you have the right type of member, it makes it a lot. If you have the right type of member and the right type of coach and the right type of program, it makes everyone's life a lot easier. Because I'm sure you talked to a lot of people that own gyms. The wrong members will ruin a gym. Like the wrong coach will ruin a gym. So we are so protective of our community. Like we literally won't let somebody even come in for a trial until they've talked to a coach, because we just want to make sure they're a good fit for us too, because those parents we have are our greatest asset in those kids' lives improving. But if those parents are really bought in, that kid will benefit from that. And we could probably talk about the fit family. So one of the things we experimented with, because we're in a unique position because our setup is safe for both adults and kids to work out in. So one of the things we experimented with last year was the first workout of every month.
The last week of every month.
The last week of every month, we would allow the parents to do the workout with the kids. Yeah. And they did the same thing. And a lot of times the kids
this was
8 and up. The kids and the parents would go head to head on planks or burpees or sprinting, max hang, like all kinds of really cool stuff. And it was such a hit with the parents and the kids. This month we're introducing a new class for us called Fit Family. Mm-hmm. So Fit Family is literally a class in which the parents and the kids can work out together, both go through the workout, both do the parkour, the ninja, the strength, and all that.
This one will be ages 3 to 5.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we wanted to experiment. I mean, we had a lot of interest in it. And when we did our 8 to 13 fit family and the parents would come in, I mean, I had parents say that they looked forward to that the whole month. Like that was their thing they looked forward to. And as a child, I mean, I never worked out with my mom, but when I was 10, if my mom or dad worked out with me, I mean, imagine the role model, right? I mean, like that's what you're seeing. Like your parents are working out with you.
We're uniquely set up where so A, that's really important to our parents, and B, the facility lends itself to both parents and kids. So like in our CrossFit gyms or our boot camp gyms, there's no way a kid could come in there at the same time and do something with a parent. Like it's just that facility, like none of that stuff is set up for that, but we really are set up for that. So hopefully this fit family thing is a good concept for us, because it's definitely, again, we basically keep making things that we want to do and seeing who else wants to do those things. And
that's a fairly effective business model. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, as a mom too, I was telling him, as a mom, we want to work out. You know, there's a lot of moms and dads too that want to work out. And then you're like, well, I have to get childcare, you know, just to move or whatever. So imagine me and other moms and dads being able to bring in their 3-year-old and get a good 40-minute workout on. And you get to hang out with your child. Your child is seeing, like, I want my child to see me move, because then she's going to want to move.
Yeah, that's one of the things that's always struck me. Like, kids are not a different species, right? They're the same. They have the same essential needs. You know, that's kind of borrowing a little bit from the CrossFit world, that our needs don't vary by type, only by degree, right? So the things that the kid needs for their cognitive and social and mental and physical health are the same things that you're going to continue to need as an adult. You just need them in different loads, you know, different. A lot of the CrossFit gyms that I've been to, including my current one, you know, the owner's kids come out after the class is over and they're swinging around on the rings and playing on and climbing the rig.
They want to do that stuff.
Of course, and they're watching the whole time. My favorite is like the 3-year-old kids that'll peek out from the kids area, and they've got little like toy barbells and stuff. And so they're doing snatches and they're doing all this stuff. The kids want to do the same stuff. And I look at the stuff that's going on at KidStrong and I'm like, I want to go do that stuff. I want to go do ninja stuff. Like so the need is obvious, right? It's if anybody who's been in a gym where kids and adults are co-present recognizes that this is a thing that should exist. You guys are starting to create that.
I really want us to kind of pioneer that concept of like the parents and the kids working out together, going through a class, going through a ninja course, going through a strength session, things like that. It's
great bonding too.
It's really cool for the parents.
Yeah, and the child. I mean,
like you mentioned,
want to hang out.
Yeah, like you mentioned, Megan, what kind of an amazing role model experience is that when the family can go do this thing together? You know, a lot of my cyclist friends will go ride with their kids, and I think that's cool, but it's difficult to extrapolate that out if your family's not a bunch of cyclists. And it's also very expensive to have that many bicycles in the family, right?
Yeah.
That adds up fast. So the opportunity to go in and get a physical activity together that's not like walking around a museum or something like kind of
cool. That's cool. And we've even talked about, and I think we'll end up doing this, we've even talked about, so we offer seminars that are like a gymnastics seminar, or we could do like a parkour seminar or a ninja seminar. So we've even talked about now offering a parent and child parkour seminar, so that literally the parents can come in with the kids. They both take the training. They both do it together. Hey, and now they have something they've done together.
I'm going to be honest with you. You know how many adults, so in our facility, we have some monkey bars. You know how many adults can't do the monkey bars? So, I mean,
they want to get on the monkey bars too.
Yeah. I mean, why not have these parents come in? Because maybe their brains change too. I mean, I know mine does when I work out and move.
Yeah, I don't know that we'll replace the gym for those parents, but I think if we can give them one day a week where they can work out with their child and have that's an experience that they'll share together, but it also kind of ingrains this behavior of we move together. we work hard, and I just didn't have that growing.
I want to give you 2 examples. So we have a lot of parents that will check in that they were at KidStrong, and they'll just kind of say something. We had a family. They have a 15-month-old that they bring every Saturday morning. That's the ritual. Saturday morning, we bring our little girl, and she posted a picture of her family, her and her husband and her little girl, and she said, "I didn't know," not quoting this, okay, something about she didn't realize that when she signed up her 15-month-old, that she was actually going to change her and her husband's life as well. And she said, "We look forward to coming in Saturday mornings and moving with our child."
Because we make the parents move a little bit.
Oh, they move.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it just, I showed him, and I was like, it's just, it brings joy. It brings a lot of joy to me to see that, because that's what we want. We want to change a family's life, and then the second thing that somebody wrote on Facebook once was, one of the moms, she didn't want to start till she was like, she said she didn't want to start her little girl till she was like 2 or 3. And then another mom that was a member said, "I wish we would have started at 15 months. And she said, those kids who are 15 months are more coordinated than me." So, oh yeah. So you can see it. They're the kids that started with us at 15 months that are now 2 and 3 are a couple years above. And ones who didn't.
Yeah, and one of the things I want to reiterate, we work with pediatric OTs and PhDs, and even based on our own experience, to develop the right curriculum for the right age. And we're never doing anything, like all the things we're doing for kids are things that they need to be doing at that age, and things they need to be exposed to, and things they need to be mastering at those ages. There is a lot of gross motor development in the younger kids that we work with that just doesn't happen. Like our curriculum, we have strong cycles that are 3 months long. So one of our strong cycles now is we're really focused on grip strength for the kids. So every class, they're hanging, they're pulling things, they're swinging from things. And that is based on the research between grip strength and being able to write effectively. Yeah. So that is all from the pediatric OTs saying, kids don't have enough grip strength, and it leads to X, Y, and Z problems later when they hit school. Not to mention that they can't physically do a lot of things if they don't have grip strength. So we build that into the curriculum. So it's things like that that are just really needed at those early years.
Well, and the longer that any person waits to develop these physical capacities, the harder it's going to be. And this is a reality that I faced myself when I never really intentionally became an athlete until my late 20s. Like my family's very nerdy, right? So we sit a lot, and we debate politics, and we talk about history, and we do a lot of music and things like that. It's not like I had a bad childhood at all, but physical development was never really a priority. And that was just, the culture of the time. It was sit down, shut up, study. That's what you do. So as I became older and I realized that I was very quickly losing the meager physical capacity that I had to go back and fix a whole bunch of stuff. I had to go back and fix a lot of gaps in strength, a lot of poor movement patterns, a lot of mobility issues. And if you start that at 15 months old, which is what would have happened at any point in human history up until the last 100 or so years, you're not going to have these problems to overcome when you're older. Well, that's what you're doing. You're heading off these problems at the pass so that when this kid is 30 or 34, in my case, they don't have to spend 10 minutes a day trying to make their thoracic spine move, because it doesn't. You're already gonna have those physical capacities later.
Well, one of the things that was really crazy for us when we started this was we didn't know how many kids were in OT simply because they had never moved.
Right.
So you see this rise in therapy, and you think, oh, there must be like something crazy going on that all of these kids need therapy. But when you start talking to the OTs, it's basically because the child has never learned how to move or never moved, and the brain and their gross motor development is behind just simply because they never moved. So a lot of the kids that they see in therapy are simply there because they have not been moving.
Well, there is something crazy going on. We're making kids hold still, which is crazy.
Yes.
That's a crazy thing to do. Kids are in preschool or pre-kindergarten, because they don't call it preschool anymore. It's pre-K. So they're at 3 years old, sitting down at a desk and trying to read book. Like, what?
Yes.
Yeah.
So funny you should mention, we just started working with a preschool.
We do preschool after school program.
We do an after school program.
Mm-hmm.
We can't, it's a half day preschool. They get out at noon. We go in at noon. The kids have a small lunch, and then they stay till 1:30 and do a class. And we offered that. This was our first year offering it. We sold out our spots in less than 24 hours.
Wow.
So yes. So the parents want it.
The parents want it.
Yeah.
Right.
Want it. And, you know, I had parents emailing me after the first 2 weeks, you know, so-and-so coming home every day, and they're showing me all the things that they learned.
Mm-hmm.
And that's awesome.
Yeah. And they're just not exposed. So one of the other things that we're really big on is positive self-talk for the kids. So I don't know if you've seen on our website or any of the things we do, but like we basically have a chant that this started with our daughter. Every night before bed, we have a poster where she says, "I'm strong, I'm brave, I can do this." So she has to say that 3 times every time before she goes to bed.
Well, you created the poster because of this.
Yeah, I created the poster. But so she would say that, and then she would do her pull-ups and get in bed. And we end up having some other parents want one. So long story short, like every class, at the end of the class, the coaches and the kids chant, "I'm strong, I'm brave, I can do this." So we really want to instill that self-talk in the kids. And shortly after we started doing that, we started hearing stories from parents that one of our kids, this is crazy, one of the kids, before they were going to get their flu shot, told their mom, "I'm strong, I'm brave, I can do this," and they got their flu shot.
Yeah, yeah.
Love it.
And, you know, a lot of parents will come to me and they're like, "I need a poster for myself," you know, like before we walk out the door, let's all as a family.
So that's been one of those things where we just keep developing these things based on, sometimes it's good to be ignorant of what's out there, because you end up building what's needed based on the needs you see kind of in the landscape. Mm-hmm. So we know that kids struggle with anxiety. So that's why we started this with our daughter, was this positive self-talk and this language of strength over and over and over. Fall down, get back up, fall down, get back up. And you just you hammer this millions of times, and then you start to see that it's literally rewired the brain. And when she encounters something, that's what she falls back to. So that's what led to us doing it in the classes and creating the posters for the kids to do at night. And we just keep doing these things based on kind of the need we see.
Yeah, and just real quick, another funny story. One of the preschool moms said that her 3-year-old was getting in the car seat, and she said, "Do you need me to help you?" She said, "No, Mom." So my daughter's name's Ella. She said, "No, Mom. Ella's mom told me that I was brave and that I could do this."
Yeah.
And her mom said, "You are brave and you can do this." And she said, "You know what? You're smart too." And the little girl said, "Ella's mom didn't tell me I was smart." So I looked at that and I was like, that's the next poster.
Yeah. We're even hearing it now where the kids are telling the parents, like, "Mommy, you're strong. You can do this."
Oh yeah.
Like when a parent gets frustrated, the kid will actually, 3-year-old will tell, the 3-year-old will reassure the parent,
"You're strong.
You're
Mommy.
strong. You can do this."
So
that's where it just reiterates that for us, it's not all about. It's this very holistic approach based on the needs of the child, you know, and that's why we try to offer all of those things together as one.
Well, and so this is one of the reasons I was so excited to get you guys on the show, because my personal mission with the work that I do in fitness media, and especially at Breaking Muscle, is to change the cultural mindset around health and fitness. And there's no better way to do that than by starting with kids and families, instilling the idea of strength and fitness as a virtue, as a moral imperative, as a cultural norm. Like being strong is normal. There's a tendency, you know, for most people,
it used to be.
Yeah, there's a tendency for most people, they watch TV and they see a bunch of athletes on TV and they think they're freaks. They think they're outliers. And that's not really the case. I think everybody's born an athlete and then we mess it up later.
Sure.
Yeah, and
the kids want to be athletes.
Sure.
And I hate it when a parent says my child's not an athlete. And I remember hearing John O'Sullivan talk about it, where if a child is struggling reading, the parent just says, like, you never hear a parent say, well, my child's just not a reader. I guess we're just going to give up on the whole reading thing.
Another example that, me and Matt will talk about when we hear parents say stuff like this, like, children start to learn how to walk, but they keep falling, right? We're like, no parent has ever said, well, they're not going to walk.
I guess walking's not for them.
Let's just hang it up. Like, you don't do that. You keep doing it. You keep doing it. You keep doing it until they walk.
So I think a lot of it too is we're trying to get people to get these things out of the bucket that they're in, right? So like moving in sports is just a bucket that when you get older, you're going to play a sport. And then when you get out of high school, you're done. Like, it has to get out of that bucket. It has to be like movement is part of childhood development. And for us, like the character, the movement, all that being one thing is like, that's really what we're shooting for. But we don't want, we try to, and that's why we have a membership, and it's not a 6-week program. We're not trying to have like a 6-week program for a kid to move and then we don't see them for another year.
Right.
Movement should be critical forever. So that's why the program's structured the way it is, and those are the parents that we really like to work with.
PE isn't mandatory.
Mandatory? Hell, it's going extinct.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
And when I taught PE, like, there was a lot of talk that PE might not exist, and I'm over here like,
it doesn't
what do you
help.
mean? Like, why would you get rid of like one of the most important things that kids need? Like, it doesn't. Didn't make sense. I'm not in there. I'm not doing it anymore, obviously. But like, why would you get rid of something that they need? Like, their brains need to move. They need to. I don't know. It made no sense. And
a lot of it's based on test scores, and they're trying to drive test scores, and PE doesn't show up on a test score.
And there's a school here in our hometown that have added an extra 15 minutes of movement, whether they get to go outside or they get to move in their room, and their test scores have gone up.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I was going to say. PE definitely shows up on a test score. PE is always going to be on a test score. It's just not on the bubble sheet, right?
That's right.
It's definitely in the score. It figures in because, you have kids who are never moving and their brains aren't wired tight and they can't physically absorb information. I
can't. As an adult, if I sit too long, I'm like, I have to.
And I think for us creating the program it's kind of an act of rebellion against some of those things.
Yeah.
Because when Megin was in the school system, you're not allowed to really teach the things that work. Like, you have to teach what's kind of handed down.
Right.
And I think a lot of the things I've done entrepreneurial wise have all been this sort of rebellion of, it doesn't have to be that way. Let's actually just do the thing that works the best and see who else wants to come along this ride with us. So for her, I think it's really refreshing for her, because when she taught PE, it didn't get the attention it deserved, and you're just strangled by the system you're in. And what we do at KidStrong, if it works, we add it tomorrow. If there was research that you told me about on this podcast and we went and verified it, we would change the curriculum tomorrow. It's always change. It's whatever is best for the kid. That's what we do. We're not tied to any bureaucracy or some test score thing that was created 40 years ago. Like, we're just not tied to that. We're tied to what works best for the kids.
Well, and that's a great tie-in to one of the other things that I was thinking about as I was kind of doing my homework on what you guys are doing down there, is that my instinctual reaction is to look at what you guys are doing and go, well, why do kids need this? They do all this stuff. They play. But what you're doing is the solution for the reality that is, not the reality that we wish could be, right? So in an ideal world, we would have kids go outside and play like we did in the 80s when we were all innocent and weren't afraid of being abducted every 10 seconds. And they would walk and run and jump and play and ride bikes and crash, and everything would be fun. But that's not where kids are now. We aren't in that age anymore. Technology has moved on. We've moved on culturally. for better or a lot of times for ill. So you guys are addressing the reality on the ground, and you have the intellectual freedom, like you were just saying, Matt, to do that.
We will definitely like push this to whatever's best for the kid without regard for like what's normal in society. So for example, in our house, we don't have a TV, but what we do have is a rock wall in the dining room. We have gymnastic bars. We just bought all these things from Nugget.
We have a basketball goal.
We let the kids basically jump from very high onto pads in the living room. These things are not normal. And I know we're going to be on the edge of that, but I think we have to be on the edge of that because most parents will peel back to, well, like what's below that. And maybe we can make that normal. Because when somebody comes into our house and they see like one of our kids swinging from a rope from the ceiling in the dining room, like that's not normal. But maybe because of that, they go into their basement and they install like funny? Something.
There has been members of ours that have created these things in their house now. Yeah. We have a member, and he took a spare bedroom and built a rock wall in there and bought bars,
gymnastics bars, and a guest bedroom
because of this. So
yeah, and so I think for us, I want us to be I want us to push it just so that we can change the mindset of parents. So for example, when our kids move out of the house, I don't think they're going to remember that. I don't think they would have remembered that we had a really nice dining room. Right. But I think they will remember the times they had playing on the rock wall in the dining room. I think that will be a lasting memory for them. And I think it also like allows them to look at the world a little differently. Like when they go to somebody else's house and it's not like that, why is that for us? So for us, like why would we build the house anything other than like what's best for the family?
We have 3 kids, 3 and under, by the way.
Yeah.
So nice stuff in our house doesn't exist. True.
Yeah. So, longer term, the vision for us, like I said, is if we can help parents really focus on giving the kids the tools they need to succeed in life. And some of that could be things they do in the home. And longer term, we want to have things that we can sell to parents that they can put in their home that kids can train on. We want to do online training because we are limited right now by a physical location. And one of the things in my experience working in the tech industry, if you can produce something that can reach anyone anywhere, you can do a lot more good that way. So we are working towards something like that. But I definitely know that we're very aware that like what we do is is different, especially like the way we live. But I think you have to have you have to push it a little bit so that you can like change the attitude of parents to like maybe get out of their comfort zone a little bit, and maybe like build a room in the house that instead of it's a playroom, now it has a rock wall and a pull-up bar. Like that small change will change that child's life. That doesn't just have like Barbies and Legos in it.
Another thing too, our children will cry, like literally pitch a fit on the ground if they have to come in from being outside.
Yeah.
And at first I was like, I can't, like this makes me so mad that these kids are pitching a fit over coming in. But then when you think about it, I'm glad it's like that. Like I want my kids to cry because they have to come inside. They love playing outside. And that's all we did growing up. We would go outside, we'd get on our bike and we'd be gone like all day. And I didn't have a cell phone back then.
Right.
That's what you did. You played with your friends outside all day and then you came in for dinner. But
and that's why I think for us, we have to pack as much quality and value into that hour we get with the kids, because that might be like the most important physically hour that they get.
Well, you talk about picking your battles, right? Like kids are going to throw fits, right? That's kind of what kids do on the regular. But you want your kid throwing a fit because their iPad battery died, or do you want your kids throwing a fit because it's dark out and they need to come in? They've been playing for 6 months.
That's why I found myself I didn't get upset. Like I wanted to kind of get upset because, they're pitching a fit. But then I was like, wait, I'm glad that they're pitching a fit.
Our kids are definitely exposed to lots of technology. We just want that to be balanced.
Right.
We just don't want the overcorrection.
One of the things you kind of mentioned is that, like, oh, our house isn't normal, and this is, the way we're raising our kids isn't normal. And while that's true, it's also crucial to understand that what is normal is really unhealthy now, right?
Sure.
We've
That's
got,
why we're okay with it.
What's the stat by like 2030? Like 70% of Americans are going to be obese. That's normal.
Yeah.
Humans are herd animals, right? We're very social. We like to stay in because that's where it's safe. But dude, the herd's running over a cliff. So somebody's got to start steering us a different direction. And that's where rock walls and pull-up bars in your house is one way to be not normal. We're going to have somebody on the show here in a couple of weeks who doesn't have any furniture in her house. That's not normal either. But if our problem as a society is that we sit in chairs too much, then maybe the solution is to have less chairs where you can choose that. You don't get to choose whether or not you sit in a chair on an airliner, fine, but you can choose whether you sit in a chair at home or in your office if you have that kind of freedom. So, being different is A, beneficial, and B, the next point I kind of want to cover is this is a competitive advantage in life. We kind of touched on a minute ago when you said, we're helping kids succeed in life, but this is tangible. This is provable. This has been studied in academic settings. This has been researched. Kids who are more physically active are smarter, period. That's the end of the story. So if every kid now is going to end up going to college for really dumb reasons, they're going to end up with master's degrees that are probably going to be useless. But where their advantage is going to be, their competitive advantage, their increased IQ, their increased social and cognitive skills are going to happen from being physically active as kids and then as adults.
Yes.
So one of the things I've definitely seen working with kids, and I didn't go to business school, I think that the mental set, the skill set of mental toughness and the ability to be resourceful and creative and problem solve will be the skill.
Right.
Eventually. And I'll tell you why I really believe that. One of the companies that I'm a co-founder of, we primarily work with Facebook. And when I was in graduate school, like that, Facebook didn't even exist. Mm-hmm. The things that I'm able to fall back on are resourcefulness, and you fall back on mental toughness and being able to deal with adversity and grit. So I really think those are the skills that are going to be in the most demand. And as we hire people, and those are the skills we look for.
Right.
If somebody has been to school and has done some very cool things on paper, that in no way ensures that they are going to be a successful member of our team. Now, if they come in and they pick up things very quickly, they're very outgoing, they're great at solving problems and getting after it, those are the people we always want to hire because we can teach them everything else. So I completely agree like that. And there's a physical part to that. Mm-hmm. And if you're able to do all those things, that to me is the thing that's going to be in the most demand going forward.
Well, and there are aspects of physical endeavors of any kind that make you better at business stuff. Like I'm an endurance racer guy, mostly. I'm not very fast, but I can go for a long time. And so it's very difficult to kind of break me in a work day because I've been in races where I was on a bicycle for 12 or 14 hours. Like, once you've been through that, there's nothing in a conference going to bother me.
Yeah.
Right.
Let me give you some another example. So I talked to one of our members. Her kids are members of KidStrong, and she is a pediatric physical therapist. And we were discussing. She's been in the program for a really long time. We were discussing the correlation between physical activity and speech. And she said that you'll see that the more the kids who have better speech are more active and move more, and that now physical or speech therapists will start incorporating movement and trying to do speech therapy because the correlation is there.
So I think we're just starting to see that like these things are not variables that should live in silos.
Right.
That's why we really like the holistic approach. Mm-hmm. And a lot of the research now is coming out that these things are connected. I mean, we would have never thought that kids that moved more would have less speech problems.
Yeah.
Like, I think going into this, like, we did not know those two things were connected. So it's really cool that the research is coming out now.
Well, and that's something that's rippling across all of science right now, right? The ways that what we thought were different and separate systems of the body and mind are really, really closely intertwined. Like, going as far down that rabbit hole as like the things you eat shape the bacteria in your gut, which actually have a profound influence on your mood. Like, everything's the same. So if you're not doing everything, then you're probably missing, a whole bunch of capacities that you weren't aware of. Occupational therapists and physical therapists and all of these different kinds of therapists. And as it turns out, you just need to move. Like, you holistically
and the best
challenge yourself.
Yeah. So, I was going to say, one of our coaches is a pediatric occupational therapist. She's been one for 18 plus years. She's amazing. And she will tell you all of this stuff starts around 6 months.
Wow.
When the child is supposed to be doing tummy time.
Mm-hmm.
And she'll say, if parents would just start doing tummy time, everybody's busy. Everybody's running around. They're busy, busy, busy. And she said too many kids are just sitting in their chairs all day.
Mm-hmm.
She said what kids need is to be put on the ground, on their tummy, and it starts at 6 months. They need to learn how to crawl. And I'm guilty too. I have 3 kids. And so, I find myself like, where am I going to put my baby? Right? Like, oh, let's just put her in the chair. Now I'm getting better. And our coach will say, just lay her on the ground, like put her on the ground and let her move, let her roll over, let her, just experience movement. And she said too many parents aren't allowing that, and that it starts at 6 months. And that's why we encourage people to start their kids so soon, because
even if it's just to be exposed to like pediatric OTs, that will help you. Like our son struggled with crawling, and because we have a experienced pediatric OT in the program, we went straight to her. She gave Megin some exercises, and 2 weeks later he was crawling.
Yeah.
Right. So like, that's why we want experts in the program.
Well, and this is something that I experienced firsthand growing up, because my younger sister has Down syndrome. She's 10 years younger than me. So PTs and OTs were all over my life.
Okay. Yeah.
She was in and out of not in and out. She was in early intervention programs and special education, all that stuff. And then my mom started working as a visual speech therapist for a network. And so I got to understand the profound influence that these people can have on basic stuff. But one of the things I took away that I still think about is that one of the therapists, and I can't remember which one, told my mom that the best thing that my little sister could have is me wrestling with her on the ground all the time.
That's awesome.
Just being on the ground and playing, right? Was developing her motor skills and her balance and all this stuff. And it, as it turns out, as I became an adult and learned how the body develops, that's what and if you're an adult now, you could do worse than getting on the floor on your stomach yourself and rolling around. Like, that might wake up some things in your body that haven't been working for a long time.
I think we're right. And this is why I think it's a really good time for us. I think we're right on the cusp of like this resurgence of getting back to like the basics and getting back to movement and what works, and everything doesn't have to be so fancy and so easy. And it's actually better if it's not easy on the kid all the time. So I think we're coming back to that. And I think, like I said, our generation of parents, not all of us, but I think there's enough of us now that have seen the struggles of this past generation have had like in the real world, and they don't want that for their kids. So a lot of that for us will start physically, which builds confidence.
Yeah.
And if they're confident, they're more social. And there's this just ripple effect. And one of the really cool things I think for the program, and why we like starting them so early, it's compounding interest, right? So like, if you can take a kid at 5 and rewire the kid's brain that when I encounter an obstacle, I need to pick myself back up and I need to figure out a way to conquer it. If you can rewire that kid's brain at 5, at 18, that kid is an exponentially different child than the kid that can't do it. And the parent says, don't worry about it. Or I'll help you. Or like, you don't have to do this. You don't want to do this today. Let's go home. Like that, the difference in those kids from that point on, there's an exponential difference. And we know, we've seen this firsthand. If you can work a kid through that, we call them like a teachable moment. If you can work a kid through that, that kid's different from that point on. I promise you. Like the next time that kid comes in, he's literally a different kid.
It's crucial to note that you guys aren't building kids. You're building people, right? You're building who are eventually going to be functional adults in a real society that's going to face them with problems and pitfalls, and they're going to need to know how to deal with these things. That's the point of education, right? Just from the top down. So how does this program work in brass tacks, right? If I had a kid and was in Lexington, I would want them in your facility 8 hours a day, 7 days a week. That's obviously not practical because you'd have to have a very large facility and a whole bunch of coaches. So how much and how often are kids coming in?
So we have most kids come once a week. That's all the availability we have now. The classes are anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour. There's 2 coaches on the floor. Usually one of those coaches, like we said, is a PhD or pediatric OT, or somebody that's in training to do that.
Or a teacher. We have a lot of teachers.
A lot of teachers that love this. So 45 minutes a week. And then we basically have what we call like a strong cycle. So there's a curriculum that's 3 months long. It's progressive. We work kids up to milestones across that. And then at the end of the strong cycle, we will test those kids out and let the parents see the progression. So like, for example, grip strength is something we're working on now. The kids will have to hang or dead hang from a bar for a certain amount of time. And we build them up to that over 3 months. So they come once a week, and then we have what we call practice sessions that are throughout the week. So some parents will bring their kids an additional visit for practice. We'll have the things that they're working on set up, and they can literally like practice the things we're working on.
So it's unstructured play. So we're really, we have a class for structured play, and then we have a class for unstructured, because
they're both critical.
All kids also need that free play time. It doesn't always have to be structured. So we offer the practice sessions for that reason, and parents love coming to those.
And we really feel like it's important to have both. Like you come in, there's one, like we put you through like a class and there's training. And then the next one time you can come around, if there's an aspect of that you need to work on or you really enjoy, go do that. Or if you want to build something different out of the equipment, amazing. And then we'll have a coach there that kind of helps the parents and the kids out. But we really like that combination of training and then a practice or more of a free play session.
That actually covers what my next question was going to be, which is how programmed is programmed. And I like that it's kind of structured the 1 day a week thing. And obviously there's a whole bunch of homework, right? So do you have to kind of hammer home to parents that this isn't the only time your kid should be working on these things? You need to go play at home the rest of the week.
Yeah, and also
that's been
something
like an education for the parents.
Yeah, something that we're doing is at-home challenges.
Yeah.
So, one of them was a handstand hold, and we'll also get the parents involved. Like one time we had a mom challenge. We're like, all right, moms, you do this at home. So we're starting to do more at-home challenges, so they do understand, like, you have to do this stuff at home. And we'll also tell parents in class, let's say that somebody's struggling. Well, they can't just do it 1 day a week. Like, why don't you, let's practice at home, practice your front rolls at home, practice getting them up on the wall at home. Just like adults, we have to do stuff over and over and over and over.
One good story about that, we had a child come in that had a hearing issue. And because he had a hearing issue, he had a balance issue. And the kid had been put into some sports and wasn't super successful because of the balance issue. He had trouble running in a straight line. And there was just a whole other host of issues that have come out of the balance issue, which also leads to the kid not enjoying sports, right? So he came in, and one of the things that we use as kind of a milestone is walking across a balance beam backwards, right? So he was in a class. We were kind of testing that out. All the kids did it, but
He failed it. He was still fairly new. And he tried over and over, and we even stayed after a little bit and worked with him. But he just couldn't do it. And with us, we really want to instill that, like, this is life.
Mm-hmm.
And if you don't get it, that's okay. You just have to work your butt off until you do. And there's things that are going to be easy for you that are hard for other people, and vice versa. So we really kind of hold that line with the kids. So he didn't get it. And I went over and we talked to him, his dad, after class. And I said, hey, he's really close. If there's any way you could work on this stuff with him at home, it would really be beneficial for him because he's so close. And that night, and the dad was very receptive. And that night, the dad texted Megin and asked for the dimensions of the balance beam because the grandfather was going to build a balance beam for the kid to practice at home.
He couldn't go backwards.
He couldn't go backwards.
The milestone was walking backwards on a beam.
Mm-hmm.
So, long story short, Grandpa builds a balance beam. They practice it
for a week
straight. The kid comes in the next week. He's like, Coach, I'm ready to do this.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, sweet. So we set it up, and he did it the first time.
All of his peers cheered for him.
So, like, when that kid went across that balance beam, it's like that parent had the same look as if that child had won a gold medal at the Olympics.
I mean, I'm the same way. Like seeing a kid accomplish something and seeing them smile and feel really good about themselves. Like, as somebody that, started this program, it brings so much joy to your life. It really does. And then you're like, this is why we do this.
The cool thing about that one in particular is that there were two things that happened that were really critical, I think, for that child's development. The child learned that if I hit an obstacle, I need to come up with a plan of how to overcome this obstacle. And then if I work for it, I can get it.
Mm-hmm.
So, like, that rewires the child's brain. And then for the parent, if my child encounters an obstacle, I'm not going to make it easy for him.
I'm not going to quit.
I'm not going to let him quit. I'm going to help him come up with a plan and then overcome this obstacle. And when that thing happened, like, for us, we continue, like, we literally believe it rewires their brains, because that child went from looking down and being shy. After he did that, when that child would come to class, he would give you a high five and say, "What's up, coach?" Like, he's different.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So those are like the critical moments for us that, like, make the program what it is.
Yeah. And it only takes a couple of victories to start that ball rolling
for the kids.
Yeah. So what ages do you guys work with?
We work with 15 months to 13 years. And we are going to be starting at 6 months in the next few months or so. Yeah.
That's amazing. So what is next for KidStrong? I see there are future plans on your website.
We have the location in Lexington. We basically we'll outgrow what we have. We'll expand, and then 3 months later we'll outgrow it and we'll expand. So we're kind of hitting a tipping point in Lexington where we're going to have to figure something out, because most of the classes are capped at this point. We're opening a location up in a few months in Frisco, Texas. There was a group of parents and investors down there that have followed us since we had like 8 kids in the program.
Literally day one.
And they've been begging, but we're very protective. So we wanted to make sure that we had the program in the right place to go somewhere else and replicate what we do.
Mm-hmm.
You can't replicate it unless it's in a really good place.
Absolutely.
So that should be coming April, May of this year.
Yeah. Late
Fantastic.
spring. Yeah.
I want to see this thing franchised, right? Like, I want this in every major city in America, because this kind of national movement, and I mean that in both senses of the word movement, is really critical to stemming the tide of obesity and sedentarism and all of the accompanying diseases that are just sapping us as a country and as a culture from the potential we could have. Everyone wants to talk about why healthcare is expensive, but the biggest driver behind healthcare being expensive is we're not taking care of ourselves.
No.
Everybody's sick all the time because they don't do anything to stop themselves from being sick all the time. So I'm behind you, man. If there's a KidStrong banner I can raise, I'm going to raise it, because I think this is part of the solution it's not, I mean, there is no one solution, right? But this is a big part of it. This is a big way that we can help turn the tide. I'll wrap things up because I know we've been sitting and talking for a minute, and talking about moving makes me want to move. So where can people go online to find you guys besides the website, which is KidStrong.com? Where else should they find you?
So Facebook page is KidStrong, and then we have KidStrong Frisco, and then Instagram is KidStrong HQ. So
Perfect.
Follow us on social media.
And it is the most adorable Instagram feed you will ever see. If you just want to see a bunch of kids lifting and rocking and rolling and climbing and sliding down stuff, it's a lot of fun to watch. Makes me want to go play on a playground. Whenever you guys start Adult Strong, I'm in. I'm coming down to Kentucky to go play in all your gym equipment. Matt and Megin Sharp, thank you so much for your time. I can't wait to get this show out to everybody, and good luck with your branch out in Texas.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Pete.